It's a Conspiracy is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown and community supported. For other fun programming, please check out albertapodcastnetwork.com, where you can find shows like Turf District Podcast. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's a conspiracy!
Okay, so we're good to go.
Yep.
Okay, here we are. This is season 5, episode 1, The Rising. So welcome back, everyone, to the 5th season of It's a Conspiracy. This is the podcast where we lay out the beliefs behind select conspiracy theories, alternative accounts, legends, myths, and more. I'm your host, Andrew, and I do not claim to be an expert on anything we are going to discuss today, and will probably be wrong about everything because it's season 5, and that just kind of blows my mind. We've been doing this for 5 years now. Can you believe that?
There's no way we've been doing this for 5 years.
know.
I was actually thinking about that. Has it literally been 5 years, or have we had short seasons?
Well, we've had 4 full years, so this would be the beginning of the...
Oh, of course. This is not the end of season 5. This is the start of season 5.
The start of season 5. So
4
we're
full years.
adding season 5. Yeah,
God.
4 full years. But where's the time gone, man? Like, how did we, you know what I mean?
4 full.
Yeah. And we're so old and crotchety now. Like, just...
I mean, I was pretty old and crotchety to begin with.
Yeah. It was a short trip for me, too.
I'm just kind of like... talking to me about sweatpants and, you know,
oh,
that
man.
sort of off.
I got sweatpants on right now.
No!
Oh, I sure do. Yeah. So shut up.
Shut up.
Now, as always, if you'd like to see where we got the info on whatever velvety parasites we are going to discuss today, then please do take a look at the notes in the episode description. Charlie works like the rent is due, and you can show him your appreciation by taking a little Snoop Dogg in there to see what the fuss is all about. Wouldn't that be nice? Mm-hmm.
The rent is due.
The rent is due.
Yeah.
Here's your check.
I've been meaning to tell you we're a little bit behind on that.
Also, we are a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, and we are so grateful for their support. Yay team, yay friends, yay squad, yay fun, yay.
Yeah.
And you can check us out at itsconspiracypodcast.com. Our Twitter at Is It a Conspiracy? That's run by the social media influencer, the Irish Madman. Our Facebook group, our Instagram, It's a Conspiracy Podcast. That's run by Gorgeous Greg. Our email and our Patreon page, patreon.com/ It's a Conspiracy. Well, that was in real life that time, Chunks. Wow.
I had to improvise.
Now, speaking of links, do you have anything you want to say here about links and your websites?
Links
I say that in
4.
plural. Are you only talking about the one website? Or?
Well, heck, I'll tell you. I was going to save it for later when I was drinking this nice beer out of my my It's a Conspiracy mug.
Oh my!
And I would love to tell you that is a new site, is a new era. Now it's the era of ScreamFamily.com. If you need T-shirts, if you need merch, if you need mugs, let's put Andy's mug on a mug, and then you can go get Andy's mug on a mug at ScreamFamily.com. We'll still get you sorted.
If you go to oldmandesign.com now, is there something that will redirect you?
It's going to redirect.
Okay, well,
I'm not a monster. I'm not just going to confuse people.
Sweet, sounds good, man.
But
okay, cool.
Get in the habit. ScreamFamily.com. It's delightful.
Alrighty then. Joining the online distance communication time today is Big Chonky running the keys.
That's right.
This squeezable hunk of burning love will interject as he sees fit, and I just do very much appreciate the online digitally distanced company. Isn't that nice? We're both in our basements, you know, both in sweatpants. It's great.
I'm in shorts.
Awesome. We're both enjoying the comfort of sweatpants.
Shorts and a button-up shirt with a bow tie, you know, and a nice fancy man hat.
Alrighty then. Now let's do this. Charlie, with a oh sure or a oh no sure. Can you tell me if you're familiar with these 3 topics?
I'll give you an oh sure or no sir.
Okay. Number 1, simulation theory.
Oh sure.
Number 2, a Charlie Scream Monster of the Week.
Oh sure.
Okay. Number 3, the McDonald's coffee lady.
No, sir.
Oh, you're not familiar with that.
I mean, that's why I said no, sir.
I guess
I thought that was pretty self-explanatory.
So this is subject number 1. What is simulation theory?
What is it?
right, Charlie. It's time to get physical here. Oh, sorry. Metaphysical.
Oh, metaphysical.
My apologies.
Can't we do both?
We're going to get metaphysical here for a second. And I'd like to ask you, what is real?
Oh, boy.
That's a big question, isn't it?
I'll tell you what's real.
Okay.
My love for this show, this podcast.
Okay, that's good.
My commitment to conspiracy hunting and monster hunting. That's what's real.
And country music.
My commitment and my love of country music. Good country music. Yeah.
All right. That
Guitars,
sounds good. Well,
and my love of sweatpants and
according to Uncle Morpheus, what is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste, what you can see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Now that's from a good movie. There's one good Matrix movie. There's a bunch of Matrix movies.
There's so many.
There's one good one.
There's like 18 Matrix movies.
Now, like the many Matrix movies suggest, the concept of real or reality is very subjective. It's possibly just a stream of experiences, but the way that we receive or transmit them is more open to interpretation than you might think. For example, right now, we are sitting here in our sweatpants having this conversation, and it's right meow. That's happening right meow. If someone were sitting on Mars with, say, a superpowered telescope watching us have this conversation, it would be after it had already happened because of the distance. What? So even though it's happening right now, they're watching us do this right now, it would still actually be somewhere else in time. Just like how we can look up in the night sky and we can see stars that blew up billions of years ago, but that light has not reached us. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Or, and maybe more to the point of podcasting, someone could listen to this recording and feel like they're hanging out with a couple of chum buckets, having a little chin wag, despite the fact that all of this is pre-recorded. So what I'm suggesting here is that the feeling of this is happening right now, man, that is a malleable notion, whether we are aware of it or not. Oh, my goodness. So enter simulation theory, a very blandly titled theory that I find absolutely fascinating. Simulation theory suggests that the universe that we live in is actually an advanced digital construct overseen by some higher form of intelligence, a la the science fiction masterpiece Reboot. We are all in the mainframe, man. Reboot. Did you ever watch Reboot? That's a great show.
Of course I watched Reboot.
I've never gone back to watch it because I'm afraid it's had to have aged so badly. But I just don't know if I want to subject myself to that.
I think it'll be all right.
Maybe, yeah. Now, ready then, living in a computer program sounds like a bit of a stretch, but there are people who have demonstrated how very possible it is. For example, Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom's paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Suggests that we could actually be living much farther in the future than we realize and are simply playing out some kind of high-powered ancestor program for the overlord nefarious purposes. Mm-hmm. Bostrom, this is the Swedish philosopher, suggests it could be the case that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but rather to people stimulated by the advanced descendants of an original race. It is then possible to argue that we would be rational to think that we are likely among the simulated minds rather than among the original biological ones. So there's a couple things in there. We'll touch on a few of these. New York University philosopher Professor David Chalmers, he describes the higher being responsible for this potential hyper-realistic simulation as a programmer in the next universe up, someone that we might consider a god of some sort, although not necessarily a god in the typical sense. This overlord, according to David Chalmers, this might be just some teenager hacking on a computer and running 5 universes in the background. But it might be someone who is nonetheless omniscient, all-knowing, and all-powerful about our world. So this could be someone just kind of running an experiment, which that makes sense. There's things that are happening that would make sense. Yeah. Now, if you're saying to yourself, wait, that's not possible because I'm real and I know I'm real and I've done real stuff with real people in real places and hey, I would know. Well, according to, this is an amazing name, Rizvan Virk.
Rizvan Virk.
Rizvan Verk. That is his real name, and your experiences. Well, that doesn't mean jack squat, pal. So shut up. Simply because we perceive the world as real and material doesn't mean that it is so. In fact, the findings of quantum physics, if you believe in quantum physics, may shed some doubt on the fact that the material universe is real. Now, I threw in that classic joke that we've been using about, if you believe in quantum physics.
If you believe in quantum physics.
Now, the problem with material being material is that everything we come into contact with is essentially a particle of information. In fact, quantum physics define particles as a qubit or a quantum computing bit. So maybe that bowl of Captain Crunch you had for breakfast really did shred up the roof of your mouth, or maybe you absorbed that information in some way that left you with the memory that it happened, which is very hard to prove, right? Could have happened, might not. Because even the act of recalling it is basically just firing up the old electrical pulses in your brains. Yep. Typically, the supporters of the theories that we are discussing here are on the they're on the fringes of understanding. I guess I want to put it in a positive, non-opinionated way. Like mostly the theories that we present, it can be very challenging to embrace some of the things that we've discussed, but this one is a little different. So people like René Descartes, I hope I'm saying that right.
René
Descartes. I think, therefore I am. That's simulation theory. Albert Einstein, Sabine Hossenfelder. These people have all been included in or published materials supporting the concept. But perhaps the most famous endorsement for the theory comes from Mr. Elon Musk. Oh, boy.
Oh, big names.
Who has Canadian citizenship, by the way. So everybody's always trying to claim that guy. He does, yeah. So he was born in South Africa, but I think one of his parents is Canadian. And as long as he's not from, like, Toronto, we're all good, right? Are they the ones that... Whatever. Now, in 2016, he said, 40 years ago, we had Pong, 2 rectangles and a dot. That is what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. Soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality, and if you assume any rate of improvement at all, these games will become indistinguishable from reality. Now, I hate to jump in with my own opinion there, Elon, but...
Ooh, you're going to jump in with an opinion already?
Well, there's something I got to point out here.
Yeah,
so
right.
we have been promised virtual reality since the 90s. So remember the Virtual Boy from Nintendo?
Of course.
The one that almost bankrupted the whole company?
It was no good.
I digress. So he's like, we're going to have virtual reality any minute now. You just shut up and wait. Now, earlier I mentioned that Bostrom's theory suggested that we were in some kind of ancestor program. The reason he suggests this is that he believes that human beings have simply transcended the physical state and are essentially brains connected directly into some kind of hive mind existence through an as of yet unknown process. So they've kind of people in the future that might be running the simulation program that we're in right now. This advanced generation may still need us, Matrix style, for any number of reasons, including food, a power source, research, etc. Now, one criticism of this theory is pointing out how difficult it would be to control the input for billions of people and maintaining some kind of consistency. And the rebuttal to that is that there may only actually be a few minds hooked up to the system. In fact, you may be the only one hooked up, and all of this is just for you. And I don't mean just you.
That's what I was
thinking. Anyone listening to this.
Probably for me.
It's just for you, right?
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
It's crazy. The whole thing could be for one individual person who's just powering the universe, whose name is Charlie.
It's so weird that it's me.
His name is Big Chunky. Now, the good news is that we would all die a quick and painless death if this theory is ever proven true. If somehow the hypothesis was proven correct and the entire world listened to the scientific findings of the supporters of simulation theory, which would suggest the overlords of the whole thing were, kind of pulling the strings, these overlords would probably just pull the plug and start all over again. So we've all played Civilization. We've all played The Sims. It's actually kind of fun to get to a certain point and then just be like, I'm done.
No, you just get to a point you're like, you know what? Forget it. This is stupid. I messed this all up. Let's just start again. Wipe it out. Just delete that save file.
Now, this theory is not without its doubters, however, and one of the high profile ones is Harvard University physicist Lisa Randall, And she claimed it's not just based on well-defined probabilities. The argument says you'd have a lot of things that want to simulate us. I actually have a problem with that. We mostly are interested in ourselves. Why simulate us? I mean, there's so many things to be simulating. I don't know why this higher species would want to bother with us. That sounds like an opinion, Mrs. Randall, Dr. Randall. I'm not, but Randall.
Keep it in your opinion pants, Randall.
That's right. That's what I said too. Also setting aside the fact that these are possibly the next evolution of human beings running this thousands of years in the future. So set that aside. The concept of what kind of computer they are using has to be addressed. So one critic pointed out, the research has calculated that just storing information about a couple of 100 electrons would require a computer memory that would physically require more atoms than exist in the universe. So, and I don't want to be one of these people accused of challenging the computing abilities of the Almighty, because, I, for one, I welcome our new insect overlords. I'd like to remind them that for both of us, we would like to remind them that as trusted podcast personalities, we can be helpful in rounding up others to toil in the underground sugar caves or whatever. We can track down some people for you. Yeah.
We got your bug backs.
Mm-hmm. I can, Greg would be perfect, right? He's used to beratement and handcuffs. Like he'd be perfect for it.
He lives for that stuff.
Not to throw him under the bus, but I'm just saying he'd be, if you're looking for a guy, then. Now, ready then, here are 5 regularly cited examples of the simulation theory for your consideration.
Let's go.
Okay. Number 1, DNA that contains a computer virus. So in 2017, which was, I can't believe how that sounds like such a long time ago.
2017.
I know, right? Oof. In 2017, it was proven that computer code can be embedded into the physical strains of DNA, which to some confirmed that biological reality is actually just computer coding. I bleed HTML. Now, number 2, weird things happening. Events like unqualified celebrities becoming elected officials, Brexit, the 2017 Oscars mix-up, and Charlie being able to taste despite being smell blind just doesn't quite add up. You think something is wrong.
It's a miss. And it's a miss because this is all my simulation. They just didn't plug my nose in.
Yeah, you're missing software.
It's weird.
It is weird.
Sorry, I got to run an update, I guess.
It is strange because people are like, in my universe, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the king of my state. I don't know whatever the governor. Yeah, the governor.
My state.
I almost said premier. The premier of my province, but that's no. Okay, number 3, supernatural events, ghosts, and ghostly mishappenings, maybe glitches in the simulation, slips between timelines, or bad rendering, like you're playing a newly released Call of Duty game. So maybe it's just kind of, mistakes in the system. Number 4, the bus phenomenon. This one is a bit odd, but someone citing this to me in a bar years ago was actually what kind of instigated my interest in the subject. So this lady's like, okay, listen, how is it that a small vehicle like a Honda Civic and a public transport bus can take up an entire lane on the street? So in a Civic, you barely have room to move. And on a bus, you can stand up and walk around and cross sides and wait amongst crowds of people. Everybody's in there. How is there so much room in one and not that much room in the other one? It doesn't make any sense.
He's got a point.
Yeah. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, okay. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to start speaking you in. I'm just going to go finish over there with, yeah.
See, by the way, get out of my Honda Civic, please. I didn't invite you in here. This is not a bus.
Oh, number 5. This is the last one here. And this is again, right in the sort of, I guess, the spectrum of our interests, the Mandela effect. Mandela minute. So events that you may recall that are slightly different than the memories of others. Perhaps, again, this is an update on the program, the aforementioned glitches, or a combination of universes. So perhaps we start in batches during our formative years, and then we're all just kind of dumped together at a certain point. And this explains why we all remember the movie poster for Shazam, starring Sinbad, sitting cross-legged in a luxurious set of yellow pants. Mm-hmm. Like, we've both seen that poster.
Clear as day.
Right. And Joe Johnson that was on the podcast, he remembers the exact same poster, but it didn't happen. So I'm just saying simulation theory might have a point. And that basically is simulation theory
I got another one.
What's that?
I got another little. And this is one of my favorite keys because I honestly do think of simulation theory unnaturally often. So before when you go to buy a car, you're like, all right, let's go check out some cars. What kind of cars? In my instance, a Dodge Caliber. I find a Dodge Caliber I like. So I buy that Dodge Caliber. Before that, I'm like, Dodge Caliber. I'm looking it up on the internet. I'm like, that's pretty neat. The Dodge Caliber. Okay, cool. Let's go get one. I haven't really seen any around. And then I went and I bought one. And then from that second on, there were Dodge Calibers everywhere. Whatever I had done had unlocked the code for the machine, for the simulation to populate the world with Dodge Calibers.
Yeah.
So it's like, Keanu Reeves being all like, I want to learn Kung Fu. And then they go, bop, 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 plug in the tape. And he's like, oh, I know Kung Fu.
I
It's
know
like
Kung
that.
Fu.
But it's like, oh, I know Dodge Calibers.
Nice. Do you still call it the Chuck Wagon? Because that's great. Like
that was my station wagon back in the day. That was the Chuck Wagon.
I hope it had wood panels on it. That would be fantastic.
But
yeah, that's simulation theory. This stuff kind of makes my brain melt a little bit. I don't know about you, but I'm like,
I just believe it, man.
Hey, put your opinion back in your pants.
Oh, right. Sorry. Back in my opinion pants.
Now, speaking of your pants, what are we, what? What
are we drinking? Well, I'll tell you what I'm drinking. Or rather, what I'm still drinking, because I think I was drinking it last time, too. I'm drinking Clock Out Lager by SYC, also known as Sick Brewing. This lager is the perfect way to enjoy your me time. Or in this case, Andy, our us time.
Oh, our us time. That's the best kind of time. That is very nice. Yeah, SYC. The more I think about it, I think it is SYC.
Actually, I had a little bit of clarity on that. Because I know a guy who asked that very question.
Okay.
And it started off as SYC. But the fact that people started calling it sick, they were like, both are acceptable.
Oh, they're okay with either.
They are both are acceptable.
Or either. Yeah, whichever it is. Yeah.
What are you drinking, Andy?
For me, I am drinking a lovely offering from the good people at Polarity Brewing in Whitehorse, which is up in the Yukon territories. So as you referred to in our last episode, I have been doing a bit of traveling over the month of July, and I was up in the Yukon for about 10 days, and it was fantastic. And there are the beer up there is great, and this is one of the breweries in the city. So Polarity Brewing, it's awesome. The one that I had is called let me just go ahead and have you enabled me to share? Oh, you disabled it. Come on now. Share the power.
Oh, you know what? I've had a change of heart.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Polarity Brewing, and I love this name. It's called the Public Universal Friend. So it's a hazy pale ale. The ingredients are pale ale malt, oat malt, raw oats, galaxy hops, citra hops, clean ale yeast. The Public Universal Friend has returned. The puff is a dry and crispy hazel pale ale made with silly, citrusy galaxy and citra hops and oats grown locally at Yukon Valley Farm. It's got the perfect spring patio vibes. And I liked it. And the brewery was just lovely. A lot of fun, good times, hanging out in there with some friends. But the coolest part was, so I've had growlers before.
Sure.
I've had howlers, which a friend of mine suggested they should rename growlitas because they're like little
mini growlers.
Mini growlers, yeah. And this place did. I thought I was reading it wrong. They're like, you could also get a crowler, and I'm like, okay, what's a crowler? Yeah. So this guy pulls up this can, hooks up like a little hose to the tap, fills up this can, and gives it to me. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is amazing. It was like a liter can. Like this was a giant can. Probably, I don't know how much a growler holds, but this was at least a liter. Like I think it was, big can. And so it had a rubber band around it. When I got home, I took off the rubber band because I was like, why is that even on there? What I didn't realize was the label that I thought was on the can saying Polarity Brewing was actually a sticker. So if you order a crowler, you get a free sticker. And I'm like, oh, yes. So
the day is yours.
Oh man, I felt like I won on so many levels. Like stickers? Oh, come on. So yeah, stickers make me happy. And that was real good beer. It is fantastic. Yeah. And that's gonna take us to advertisement number 1.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Bonkink.
I'm Andrew Paul.
And we're the hosts of the Well Endowed Podcast.
The Well Endowed Podcast is produced by Edmonton Community Foundation, or ECF as we call it.
ECF provides grants to charities through the endowment funds we create and manage with our donors.
Hence the title of our show, The Well Endowed Podcast.
Every month, we bring you a collection of stories and interviews with fascinating guests who are working to make Edmonton a strong, vibrant city to live in.
Through these stories, we look at the space where endowments intersect with your communities.
So if you're interested in the people and issues impacting your community, check out thewellendowedpodcast.com.
Okay. And we are back with subject number 2. This is a Charlie Scream Monster of the Week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All righty.
Start the season off right. Welcome back to Charlie Scream's Monster of the Week, where I pick a different monster, either mythical, supernatural, or paranormal, and give it the classic X-Files solo episode attention and respect that it deserves. Okay? Okay, well, let's hop to it with this week's subject, the Loveland Frogmen. The Loveland Frogmen. Loveland, because the place they live is near Loveland, Ohio. And frogmen, because, well, they look like frogs, and also men. Man, come on. To be a little bit
explanatory, okay?
Yeah, that's right there, right in the name, Andy. To be a little more descriptive, they are bipedal beings that stand mostly upright like a human. They can, but still have like a leathery skin and webbed hands and feet, you know, wrinkly skinned frog heads. Known to live in the temperate forests of Claremont County, Ohio, these creatures are able to survive the cold, cold winters without hibernation. Maybe they have heating rocks, I'm not sure, maybe some sort of a lamp that keeps them warm, but regardless, they seem to have the ability to use sticks-like tools. And also, allegedly, these sticks have been known to shoot off sparks, like wands or possibly electricity, like magical electrical frogmen, per se, you know, perhaps just something like that, you know, like like you see everywhere. The beings have been reportedly sighted numerous times, once in 1955, twice in 1972, and even as recently as 2016, also came with a little bit of video evidence. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's always good when there's video evidence, right? It's always dead on and completely undisputable. They have been seen by upstanding citizens, such as businessmen and farmers and police officers. The first time being in 1955 on a road that runs alongside the Miami River on the outskirts of Loveland. The story, as reported by cryptids.fandom.com, goes that around 3:30 a.m., a businessman named Robert Honeycutt claimed to have seen something unforgettable. He witnessed 3 bipedal quasi-reptilian entities congregating by the side of the road. The man pulled his car to the curb and observed these creatures for what he estimated to be about 3 minutes. During this time, he noticed that these strange beings stood between 3 and 4 feet tall, were covered with gray, leathery skin, and had webbed hands and feet. Their most distinguishing characteristic, however, was their distinctly frog-like heads, which the man claimed bore deep wrinkles where their hair should have been. Just as the man was about to steal away, one of the creatures suddenly held what the witness could only describe as a wand above his head. The anonymous source further claimed that sparks spewed out of the end of this device, and he left post-haste. Then, fast forward a little bit, 17 years later, a police officer was traveling towards Loveland. I'm sure it's Loveland, not Loveland.
It's got to be Loveland.
That would be weird if it was Loveland.
Yeah, Loveland is a hotel.
That charges by the hour. Driving slow on the ice in the cold of winter, this gentleman, he saw what looked like a dog on the curb. The animal jumped in front of the cruiser, and the officer hit the brakes to avoid hitting it. He was on ice, so he went skidding around, and when he came to a stop, he saw the creature stand on his back two legs, stare at the officer, scramble over the guardrail, and take off down the embankment, disappearing into the Ohio River. Another officer later found scratch marks on the guardrail that the creature had jumped over. So that's all well and good, but then 2 weeks later, another sighting had a different officer stop to help what he thought was an injured animal on the side of the road. When he tried to pick it up, it hopped up and escaped over the guardrail yet again. It turns out that one just hadn't croaked. And most recently, mid-August 2016, local Cincinnati TV stations reported that a night of fun turned into a chilling tale of horror when two teenagers playing Pokemon Go between Loveland, Madeira Road and Lake Isabella claimed to see a giant frog near the lake on August 3rd that stood up and walked on its hind legs. Now, let's take a look at this video evidence.
Oh my.
Now, it's pretty hard to see in the video. Matter of fact, can you see the video?
The Loveland Frogmen. Yes, I can. Yes.
Here we go. You can see his froggy eyes, and you can see the reflection of his froggy eyes in the water.
I can see two lights. I feel like Captain Picard here.
There are two lights.
Yeah, all I can see was two lights that maybe they belong to a
No, sir,
frog?
that was the Frogmen. So that begs the question, are the Loveland Frogmen croaky creatures, or are they a toad-ul hoax? We may never know. But either way, they've hopped their way into our hearts. In May 2014, the Loveland Frog legend was even made into a musical titled, Hot Damn, It's the Loveland Frog. And that's true. And back to you, Andy.
What a riveting story.
No.
Oh man. No, I just, I was taken with that video evidence. That really was spectacular. And it's going to shut down any naysayer.
What else could that possibly be?
What else could that have been?
We'll make sure to put a link to that in the notes. Go check out if you would love to see the Loveland Frogman.
That is going to take us to subject number 3, the McDonald's coffee lady. Okay, now I was kind of assuming this would be the one that you would be familiar with, but maybe as I'm explaining it, you might be like, "Oh, I think I've heard of this before." It just took a second. Okay, right. So you haven't heard of the McDonald's coffee lady? She pulls up to the drive-through window. She gets her coffee. She drives away recklessly. She ends up spilling her coffee in her lap. Sues McDonald's. They lose the case. They pay her millions of dollars. They're forced to put a warning on their cups, and she is generalized as the gold standard of someone who becomes rich due to their own stupid mistake. And they force a company that was, doing something that everyone knows is just common sense. So here's your coffee. It's hot. That seems, and it just kind of developed that reputation of, I just wants the money. Come on, give me some money. I'm going to sue you. And except that none of that really happened that way. So is this ringing any bells? Is this buzzing any?
The second you said it, I remember.
Oh, yes. I recall now.
For some reason, I thought it was a gentleman who had spilled coffee in his lap. Seriously.
I'm sure. I mean, I probably told you. I've usually, if I'm drinking,
you spill coffee in your lap all the time.
Yeah. Now, I don't want this sentence taken out of context here, but if I'm drinking and driving, I typically spill in my lap while I'm drinking coffee.
It's only coffee, of course.
Now, 1992, what a year. Stella Liebeck, what a great name. So she was this 79-year-old woman living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is Breaking Bad, I believe, is based in Albuquerque, which is a fun word to say, hard to spell.
Albuquerque.
Yeah. Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Miss Liebeck, she takes her grandson to the local McDonald's for a special surprise. After they get their food, they parked in the parking lot, and Stella admits she clumsily spilled her coffee on herself. Oh. She readily admits this was entirely her fault, but she took umbrage with the fact that the coffee was a scalding 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So you might be thinking like, I don't know what that number means. So for the rest of the world, Americans, I'm going to translate this into what everybody else uses. So in Celsius, that's 87 degrees, which is just about boiling. Like that's hot enough. 87. Yeah. So this spill caused extensive third degrees on her upper legs and brace yourself here, her genitals, which were, yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Ouch. Ouchie. So severely painful and ended up requiring extensive surgery to treat properly and just some burned gear there, which is, yeah. Liebig initially did not want to sue as she admitted the spill was her fault. But after becoming nearly bankrupt from the expenses, one of the surgeries, for example, was estimated to cost around $20,000. She was encouraged to take legal action. So she agreed to this on the condition that the cost was only for the medical expenses, and then off to court they went. McDonald's, knowing the power they wield and using the defense of, it's coffee, everybody knows it's hot. They offered her an out-of-court settlement of $800. And
That's it.
That was it. So this paltry sum fired up Liebig and her team, and a full-on lawsuit was launched in 1994.
Give me that damn clown money.
Oh, man. So during the trial, it was revealed that over 700 people had suffered burns from the coffee and had required medical care between 1982 and 1992. And the McDonald's representatives, I'm just assuming it was Ronald McDonald, like in a suit. Mm-hmm. He admitted that the coffee was, in fact, a dangerous temperature, but keeping it at the point of boiling was what customers expected. I want my coffee hot. Hot me some coffee. Now, the jury considered the evidence, and they decided that Ronald McDonald should not only be forced to change his corporate practices, but that he should compensate Liebig for much more than the $20,000 in damages. They suggested the sum of $2.9 million, and in a shocking display, it was actually Liebig who decided to settle for $600,000. So she's like, oh, that's enough money for me. Don't you worry about it, sweetheart. And really, to be fair, $2.9 million would be a lot of money for McDonald's, who were just a little blue-collar company, a little mom and pop trying to struggle their way through the hard world. You know, come on, give them a chance. Now, things began to go wrong almost immediately after the trial, as the case became super famous across the U.S., Canada, and the rest of the world. So it certainly feels like a deliberate choice of misleading the public to turn sort of like just like a misconception in the public mind, and also to turn public opinion against frivolous personal injury lawsuits was like sort of the objective there.
Right.
So in truth, Stella Liebig was actually not driving when she spilled her coffee. She freely admitted her clumsiness. She only wanted her medical bills paid. And perhaps, and I think this is the most important part, she accepted a fraction of the amount that the jury recommended she be awarded. Yeah. So she'd already won the case. Like she'd already had the case, and she's like, I'll be fine with just the $600,000. You give me that and we'll just call it a day.
That's a lot of cheeseburgers.
I know, man. Come on. Can you imagine? Even $600,000 is still not bad, but $2.9 million.
She didn't even round up to at least $1 million.
Yeah. Well,
just be like, now I have $1 million.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to buy a flamethrower and I'm going to burn you all down. Wow. That is going to take us to advertisement number 2.
This episode of It's a Conspiracy is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Life as a business owner can be hectic, to say the least. Alberta Blue Cross understands that. They offer flexible health, dental, life, and disability coverage for your employees. Even better, you can let your staff enroll and manage their coverage at any time and on any device. That makes life easier for them and for you. You've got this when it comes to group coverage for your small business, and Alberta Blue Cross has got your back. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca.
Now this is Opinion Time, all about how the hosts recap their thoughts right now. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there to tell you if they believe in the stories they just shared.
All right then, Chunks. What was our first theory?
Oh, it was programmed right to my brain as the simulation theory.
Mm-hmm. And then, Andrew, what was our second? It was the Ohio Frogmen.
Loveland Frogmen.
The Loveland Frogmen.
That's plural, by the way. There were multiples.
Frogmen.
Yes.
Right. And then, Charles, what was our third theory? Do you recollect?
Hot coffee in the laps that it loves. McCafe.
Yeah, that's where coffee goes, isn't it? It's always
Right to the lap. One way, either on the inside or on the outside. That's where it's going, straight through you.
So, what do you have any thoughts about this coffee thing before we kind of move on to the bigger bites?
Okay, she did say that it was her fault. So I mean, it's hard to like find fault with that and be all like, "What are you crazy, lady? Why you ain't got no cup holders in that car? Come on!"
Mm-hmm.
But like
87 degrees, like that's
pretty hot.
That's pretty hot.
A bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that's too hot. Why you put your coffee that hot?
I guess like I get having hot coffee, like I understand that, and sometimes like I worked in a Starbucks window in university, and people are always like, "I need it that hot because I'm driving like an hour to work and my commute," and but still,
you can burn your mouth when you drink it that hot,
and get an insulated mug, right? Like I got a Yeti that'll keep it warm for days.
If you're driving for an hour, and if you regularly, then just get a mug, man. Get an insulated travel mug.
And also this is why now, and most coffee cups, like to go coffee cups, have this where it's like contents are hot. There's like a warning on there. It's like, oh, that's shocker. I'm surprised.
This receptacle of hot goods might have hot goods inside of it. Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, we live in an age where like warning signs have warnings on them and everything, but
there's a warning sign coming up.
But the big thing is nobody wants to be nailed with this lawsuit, and she was not the first. So like they said, over 700 in the decade prior,
right?
Where so
how did this one catch the news cycle and become so big?
That's the big mystery, right? Because I think
like
McDonald's was like, they were running damage control, right. And I think in the 90s the idea of I'm gonna sue the pants off of you kind of became like a very common practice, and people were sort of rallying against that, and it's like just a perfect storm for something like that. But she is credited as kind of the like clumsy person taking advantage of the company in most people's narrative, like when they're talking about
they're
that.
Like, she's trying to take advantage of that poor clown. How's he going to take care of his little McNugget and cheeseburger friends, little French fry guys? How's he going to be able to afford to send them for braces?
Yeah, Ronald will be destitute and on the streets. He doesn't show up. Speaking of damage control, he doesn't show up very often either
anymore.
Anymore.
I think he's retired mostly. Yeah.
Well, there was that clown scare of 2018 or whatever it was that just maybe was the nail in the coffin. So the Frogmen, I think that looked like a fun thing, and the video was certainly compelling, but I don't know if I believe that there are giant frogs. But I love that they had magic wands that like shot sparks. Like that's great. What a great addition. It reminded me of this is quite a stretch, but it reminded me of Godzilla versus Kong. And spoilers, Kong gets like a giant kind of sparkly axe in that movie that he fights Godzilla with. And I'm like, this is great. I'd never thought of him using weapons.
Sure.
So the Frogmen using sort of Harry Potter.
It kind of makes me want to go get a tattoo of a bipedal frogman with like a wizard staff and shit. That'd be pretty dope.
That would be an amazing thing to have like stenciled on the side of your van, or on the side of your Caliber, just like
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, beauty. Now, as for simulation theory, do you got anything you want to say on this? Because I do have a couple thoughts, but it sounded like you've looked into this before.
Well, I don't not believe it.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of times where it kind of can make some sense, or you'll see like there are some, I also like the Reddit that has simulation theory, that you can see like a picture of a dog and then like 10 feet behind it, the exact same dog doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, there's so many weird things like that in what is supposed to be such a vast world, even of different things. Why are so many things so similar like that where you can see that,
I guess so. I think one of the critiques I would have of it is it does kind of fall into the whole idea of like, I don't understand this, so I'm going to put it in a context of something I understand. We must be in a giant video game or a big computer program.
I mean, okay, so there's nothing different than like I can sit down and play Minecraft or No Man's Sky and that's all procedurally generated worlds where I can go around and do anything, you know?
Yeah.
And both of those games, one is like super rudimentary and like basics blocks, and the other one is like there's millions and billions of worlds that you can literally go to. Right. So like even just the difference between that and the next one is the same as it could be the same as the difference between that one and this one. You know, like
one of the things that people pointed out as evidence of the simulation theory was that we are kind of generally like culturally really attracted to doing things like playing games that are in fact simulations like Minecraft or The Sims or Civilization or whatever, where these like open world create, do your thing. We're drawn to it because we ourselves are in it. And again, actually kind of maybe like what you were alluding to, you really couldn't disprove this theory. It would be, you know, it would be the game. And we'd all die a quick painless death if that should happen.
Just hit restart and delete the save file.
So it's I do love the airtightness of it. And I do got to say, like, you know, when you get someone like, you know, the concept, even the fact that right now we are recalling a conversation we had earlier.
Sure.
That is because we got like these little signals going back and forth in our brains.
The ones and zeros.
And I mean, it's not happening right now. We're recalling something that happened earlier. So we are kind of demonstrating what simulation theory is, even if you just think of it as basically replaying something in your mind. It's something that is not happening for real. So
well, and then there's the other idea, the slightly different idea, where it's like maybe it's not just for nothing. Maybe this is a simulation, but it's more it's a simulation, but it's more like a computer program. Like I believe it was A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? Where spoilers, I suppose, if I'm recalling this correctly, but wasn't it like the mice on Earth were trying to work out a computer program to give you the answer to the universe?
Yes, that does sound right.
And the answer was 42.
That was the answer to everything.
And that was a program that was run by mice. So it was to say that it's, you know, we think of a program as wires and you know, computer stuff, but maybe we are the computer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
this begs the question I've wanted to ask you for quite some time. I was in the Mac store not so long ago. We're both Mac fans. No biggie. No one come at us over that.
Yeah.
And I had to get a new mouse. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, here's our selection of mice. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the plural of this kind of mouse is mouses.
Mouses?
It's not mice. I mean, we're not looking at a bunch of
yes,
rodent.
But if this is understood to be a mouse, then if there was two next to each other, they would be mice.
All right. Okay. I didn't realize. I'll just pull this knife out of my back. I thought you would support me with this, but never mind.
Mouse, you didn't pitch that idea to the guy, did you?
I could not. I was like,
sir, excuse me, sir. I believe they're called mouses.
I was like, these are some nice mouses, I think is what I said. But neither of us knew really how to.
You stood your ground.
I just wasn't sure because I was like, it's not mice, but I wasn't gonna. The guy seemed very nice, just trying to help me out. I didn't want to be like, well, actually,
these are actually mouses. Oh God, another one of these guys.
Yeah. Oh God, we've got got the M alert happening over here in the Mac store, and then security comes and just beats the hell out of me and throws me out back. Did you have anything else to say for simulation theory? Y'all good?
I think there's just, it feels like such a big subject that I think we'll have to come back at some point.
I do have a couple of things that we're going to touch on with this because it would be it's kind of like the New World Order or the Illuminati or something like that, where there's like subgroups within.
Sure.
And we can revisit. This is just a general look at it.
I also don't feel like I had, because I don't generally know what we're talking about before we started the episode. I didn't have any notes on.
You didn't have any notes
on other things that I think about simulation theory.
All right.
Which I cannot recall at the moment, but I know they exist.
I think you just said stimulation theory.
No, maybe I did. Maybe I did. What's it to you?
Alrighty then, Cappuccinos. Thank you so much for swinging by for the maiden voyage of season 5. We hope you take care and you don't carelessly spill anything on your upper legs or genitals. Just kind of take it easy on your gear, on your trunk, on your tackle, whatever you want to call it. Just drive safe is what we're saying. We are so glad that we've got episode 2 coming out later on this month, and we've got a bunch of really fun shenanigans planned out for the season. Theories, alternative accounts, legends, myths, snack times, what are we testings, special guests, all that kind of stuff. So a whole bunch of stuff coming at you. In the meantime, please feel free to check out our past casts and social medias at itsaconspiracypodcast.com. You can subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review, order some merch, get in touch to say hello, maybe suggest a theory, or if you'd like, you could even submit a version of the Opinion Time jingle. Ooh. A couple of them came through last year. It was really cool to hear, which is just awesome. We will use them if we get sent them. That would be great.
I'd love it if you did. Send them in.
All right, then. So until next time, take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Sweatpants, my love of sweatpants, sweatpants, I love sweatpants, I love sweatpants, I love sweatpants.